Next up is the presentations. Looks like first one on the agenda is Town of Winfield. Mr. Repay, could you introduce that for us, please?
Yep, Town of Winfield. I believe Mr. Duffy is out there. I hope he is. He will be presenting. He is the consulting engineer for the Town of Winfield. This project lies on the border of Winfield and Maryville. And so with that, I'll just let him give all the fun details and remind all presenters that the board has seen your application and they've all read them. So however that helps you give your presentation is a good thing.
Good evening. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present this tonight. As sure you've read the application, we have a waterway within the town of Winfield that we have done extensive study and work on through the years. It appeared in our 2009 Stormwater Master Plan as a priority level 1. I can share my screen, correct, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you guys see that?
I'm good.
Okay. Yes, sir.
All righty. So here's Hidden Creek as it makes its way through Hidden Creek subdivision. Maryville's boundary is right here. And through the years, we have analyzed this waterway to come up with some ways to protect the residents along this creek and to help figure out a way to keep 101st Avenue, which is here, and Clay Street up here in Maryville from overtopping. What we've looked at in the past, we've looked at diverting some of the water, picking it off here and sending it east to a large wetland, which I'll illustrate with this slide so you guys can get a flavor of the overall area. This is Hidden Creek subdivision here. All this over here is a large wetland that is the ultimate destination for all the water in this area of town. And what has happened through the years as we've looked at this, in order to maximize detention and protect the private structures, ultimately, the best scenario is to upsize this culvert and upsize this culvert here at Clay Street in order to let the water pass to where it naturally wants to go, which is to that wetland. It poses minimal effect to the wetland. We've been working with the town of Maryville, walking it with Matt and looking at the different options up there and the sizing of the pipe that it would take for the culvert crossing, enhancing the discharge from the pond so that way it's piped directly underneath 101st Avenue. And that would be phase 1 of the project. What that allows Winfield to do is then to, with our own stormwater board, come in and enhance the creek, change out this culvert crossing, and provide a level of protection to all the residents around here. Brought some pictures, and I put some pictures in the application, but if you look at this one here, this is what happens at this house all the way upstream of the waterway. And then obviously as you get downstream, we have the result here at 101st overtopping. This is that same cul-de-sac I showed you before. You can see the electrical transformer. The whole road floods. So it's not just a one end of the development or the other. It's a watershed issue in this area of town. So we looked at piping the water this way to the wetland. Unfortunately, that's all out of our jurisdiction and bypasses the natural waterway. We've looked at taking it from here over to there. We've looked at trying to work with a developer here in the past to do something. But ultimately, the waterway is so flat, we really need to get the water to the wetland and then work all through here to fix that, which would be Winfield's responsibility. The only thing we're seeking help from the commission with is the pipe from the pond underneath the road and this culvert crossing. working with Matt and Maryville, they've written us a letter of support. They're going to maintain the roadway and the culvert in the future. Town of Winfield to maintain everything upstream and hopefully put this problem to bed once and for all for the residents in there. As a question, I'm sure that might come up is why don't you just buy the properties that keep flooding? And we did look at that as far as acquiring the residences that do get water and raising them. Ultimately, though, even by making those properties part of the detention system, it doesn't result in a solution to the problem for the rest of the subdivision. I also have Nick Bellar on the phone. I believe he's also there. He's the town administrator. If there's any administrative questions regarding the development. But that's
You know,
the
I have a
application.
question, Mr. Duffy. I mean,
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming all of the water that's coming through this location is coming from Crown Point under I-65, or is that incorrect?
That is incorrect. This water that comes from here actually originates on the south side of 109th Avenue. Makes its way through the Tree subdivision, which is directly south of this area, and ultimately goes up in here and makes its way over to Deep River underneath 93rd.
I mean, I see nothing but cornfields, and we have flooding in the 3 houses in the middle of the cornfields.
Yeah, this one here regularly gets water, and this one back here, this one up here, because basically what happens is this whole pond or this whole channel becomes a function of the detention system of this pond. So as the water reaches peak elevation, it backs all the way up through here due to the flatness and then starts leaving the banks.
I got a question.
Yes.
Is this created by a development design that was inadequate at the time? And now we're going back to try to fix it?
I think that things could have been looked at a little better by the original developer. This was originally a Lake County development that Winfield incorporated in when we incorporated as a town. I think that ultimately that culvert probably should have been looked at a little closer, but really Clay and 101st would have had this problem probably with flooding overtopping in general. The culvert down here, these two here, I think are 215 inches that are submerged underneath the waterway in the existing condition.
Mr. Duffy, are you the town's engineer for this?
I am.
Okay, so what other developments within Winfield might fall under that same description? Is there any others?
As far as what? The description of?
It could have been handled differently in the previous development reviews by entities other than the town of Winfield.
I think for the most part, we're pretty solid. As far as the especially anything new, I think the developers will tell you that we have one of the tougher stormwater ordinances around because we do not have the ability to go back and correct other people's mistakes as any other municipality does. Everybody wants to get it done right the first time. I think that this development in particular, because it's a septic development, they were limited in what they could do with grading, and in general, this waterway became part of the detention system, and to get the water out quick enough, that culvert just isn't sized. We tried to get it replaced, I want to say maybe 5 years ago, working with the town of Maryville when they were paving this road. But we've had to deal with some property owner concerns to the north because it's out of Winfield's jurisdiction, obviously. Maryville controls this road.
Thank you. Gentlemen, any other questions? I mean, any questions for Mr. Duffy on this? I can barely see anybody, so you have to help me.
Can I ask Dan a question? A while back, when we first were entertaining request for funding. Didn't the town of Winfield come to us with something similar to this? Or this in general, and it just
we have
never
a-
happened?
We have 109th. Are you speaking about another previous application?
Yeah, this was a while back. There was at least one or two applications that Winfield came to us with, that requested money. And I thought, if my memory serves me correct, we approved one or two of them in the past, and they never acted upon them.
There was one, and Michael will be able to tell me better.
Yeah.
Well, there was one that was approved and for whatever reason, it wasn't acted upon, whether, I think you guys changed directions or did something different, so.
Yeah, I can answer a few things in regards to that. The one that wasn't acted upon actually turned into the Grand Avenue overall project, where it turned into a resolution of the large culvert that's underneath the road, and that project's currently out to bid right now. So we kind of rolled that one into a much larger project. As far as for Hidden Creek, this area, yes, we did actually approach the commission with a request to actually design this project. That was not favorably recommended by the commission. So the town of Winfield actually sponsored DLZ to undertake all of the design work under the Stormwater Board's funding. So that way we would come with basically a shovel-ready project, not an analysis, not any type of preliminary engineering work. We actually went ahead and designed this and worked with the town of Maryville and submitted it to them as well, so that they knew what we had in mind for what was going to happen in their portion of Lake County. I mean, really, the predominant work here is actually happening outside of Winfield's jurisdiction, but we actually need to do that in order to solve our own issue. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
I may have missed one. I had an interruption earlier, so I apologize. I did hear the beginning of the presentation, and you said something about a developer to, it looks like, to the east. I have a concern, and Chairman Baker, correct me if, or stop me if this question is already asked. What's happening just to the east with this other development? Is this problem going to account for what they're doing, or are we going to have another issue?
Oh, that project died years back. If you actually look on the county GIS, it's actually platted, but it never was acted upon because they could not get engineering approval from the town because of the strain on this particular waterway. Since
So-
that time, we've instituted a very aggressive stormwater ordinance. So I, as the town engineer, can require additional detention within developments to ease issues on distressed waterways.
Okay,
So-
so effectively, this area to the east will not be developed on unless you and others approve it.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
And may I ask everybody if they're not speaking to mute their things, because whoever's eating the pistachio nuts, I'm hungry. Any other questions for Mr. Duffy on this? Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate the time and effort in putting in this. We'll take a review. We'll work through Mr. Repay to be able to move forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.